Writing a literature review does not have to be a difficult and daunting process. I know that feeling of frustration because I've been there. My journey didn't start in a creative studio. It began in the rigorous, high-pressure world of physical therapy. In that field, precision is everything, and scientific research is the backbone of every move you make. And that mindset changed how I approach academic writing, especially literature reviews. Because a literature review is not about sounding smart. It's about building a chain of evidence you can defend. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 5 key steps that take you from a messy topic and a few keywords to a structured, well-supported literature review draft. And to help me do it, I'm going to use Inara AI. Not to write for me, not to replace reading, and definitely not to gamble with academic integrity. I'm using it as a research workflow tool where every important claim can be traced back to real papers and citations you can verify. Before we start, I want you to turn this into a case study with me. Leave a comment with your topic and tell me honestly if you've started writing yet. Are you stuck at the searching stage, the reading stage, or the writing stage? That comment matters because I'm going to use real viewer topics for the next video. Now, the 5 steps are search, compare, analyze, draft, and write. It's that simple, but only if we do one thing first. We define a clear research question. In musculoskeletal diseases, the topic can explode fast. So for today, I'll use a concrete example just to show the workflow. Let's say our topic is knee osteoarthritis, and our research question is about how exercise therapy affects pain and function, and what the recent evidence says about mechanisms and adherence. You can swap my topic with your topic in the comments and follow the exact same steps. Step 1 is search, and this is where most people waste weeks. They search broadly, they save random PDFs, and they end up with a folder that feels heavy but doesn't feel usable. So here's the principle for search. We don't collect papers, we build a shortlist with purpose. The reason this matters is simple. Your brain is not failing because you're not smart enough. Your brain is overloaded because the inputs are unfiltered. If your inputs are messy, your writing will be messy. In Inara, I start with paper search inside the workspace. I'm going to ask it for the current state of research on my musculoskeletal topic, and I'm going to force it to stay structured. Here's the exact prompt I would type. Provide a summary of the current state of research on knee osteoarthritis with a focus on exercise therapy, including key mechanisms, major findings, common limitations, clinical implications, and recent breakthroughs from the past 2 years. Include citations to peer-reviewed studies for every major claim, and prioritize higher quality evidence such as systematic reviews, meta-analyses, randomized controlled trials, and large cohort studies. End with a short list of 15 core papers I should read first, each with a 1-sentence reason why it matters. The proof moment in this step is not the prettiness of the summary. The proof moment is whether the output is anchored to citations you can click and verify. If the tool gives you claims without sources, then it's not helping you write a literature review. It's helping you feel good for 30 seconds. That's not what we're doing here. Once Inara gives me the shortlist, I save those papers into a dedicated folder or list for this project, something like OA Exercise Review. This part matters because it turns your research from scattered browsing into a controlled dataset. And if you already have a Zotero library, you can bring in relevant papers and keep your workflow in one place, instead of bouncing between 10 tabs and losing your mind. Quick mid-video note. If you want to follow the exact workflow I'm using, I'll put the Inara link in the description so you can replicate it with your own topic. Use it as a tool, not as a shortcut. Now we move to step 2. Step 2 is compare. This is where you stop reading papers like isolated islands and start seeing the patterns. The principle here is that a literature review is not a stack of summaries. It's a map. The reason compare matters, especially in musculoskeletal diseases, is that studies often disagree. One paper says exercise helps a lot, another shows smaller effects, another focuses on specific subgroups, and suddenly you don't know what to believe. Comparison is how you turn confusion into structure. In Inara, this is where I ask questions across the entire folder of papers, not just one paper at a time. I'm basically saying, look at the whole landscape and help me organize it. Here's a prompt I'd use. Across the papers in my OA Exercise Review folder, compare the study populations, the types of exercise interventions, the outcome measures for pain and function, the follow-up duration, and the effect size patterns. Identify where findings are consistent, where findings conflict, and give me the top 3 reasons those conflicts happen. Then list 5 research gaps that show up repeatedly across the literature and propose a clean set of themes I can use as sections in my literature review. Include citations for each theme and each gap. The proof moment here is whether the themes actually match the papers and whether the gaps are real gaps or just vague suggestions. When the citations are right there, you can audit it. You can click, check, and decide. This is how you avoid hallucinating your own literature review. You're not trusting the tool. You're using the tool to speed up organization while you stay in control of verification. The warning, if you skip compare, is brutal. You end up writing a literature review that reads like a diary. This paper says this, that paper says that. There's no synthesis. There's no argument. And if there's no argument, the reader doesn't remember anything you wrote. Mini recap for compare. You are not summarizing papers. You are extracting patterns and building a map. Now we go deeper. Step 3 is analyze. This is where you earn credibility. The principle is simple. Don't cite what you don't understand. The reason this matters in PhD level work is that supervisors don't just want citations, they want judgment. They want to see that you understand methods, limitations, and what a paper actually proves. So in this step, I pick a few core papers from my shortlist. Usually it's the most influential systematic review or meta-analysis, 1 or 2 key randomized trials, and maybe a large cohort study if it's relevant. Then I ask Inara to help me extract the specific details I need without letting it generalize beyond the paper. Here's the prompt I'd use for a single paper. For this paper, summarize the research question, study design, sample characteristics, intervention details, main outcomes, and key results. Then list 3 limitations that could affect interpretation. Finally, tell me exactly which parts of the paper support the main claims and provide citations I can verify. If I want to be even more strict, I add this line. If any statement is not directly supported by the paper, label it as uncertain and do not present it as a fact. This is where your literature review becomes real. You stop being someone who collects papers and you become someone who can defend claims. That is the whole game. The warning if you skip analyze is that you end up with citations that look impressive but collapse under one question. If your supervisor asks, where exactly does the paper say that? And you can't answer, your confidence drops instantly. And once your confidence drops, your writing slows down. Analyze is how you protect your momentum. Mini recap for analyze. Read fewer papers more deeply and extract what you can defend. Now we build the skeleton of the review. Step 4 is draft. This is where most people think they should start writing, but they start too early. The principle here is that outlines reduce cognitive load. The reason it matters is that a literature review is not one long paragraph. It's a structured argument. Without an outline, you will repeat yourself, contradict yourself, and forget what you already covered. In Inara, I create a note for the outline, and I ask for a structure that matches how academic readers think. Then I force it to map papers into sections so the outline is not just pretty headings. It becomes a writing plan. Here's the prompt. Draft a detailed literature review outline for knee osteoarthritis and exercise therapy. Include an introduction that defines scope and key terms. Then sections that cover evidence types, intervention categories, outcomes, mechanisms where supported, limitations, and future directions. Under each section, list which of the core papers belong there and why, in 1 sentence each. End with 3 candidate thesis statements for the review, each supported by citations. The proof moment here is clarity. When you look at the outline, you should feel your shoulders drop. You should feel, okay, I know what I'm writing next. If you don't feel that, your outline isn't a real outline. It's just decoration. The warning if you skip draft is that you will write in circles. You will write a lot and you will still feel lost. That's the worst kind of work. Effort without direction. Mini recap for draft. Outline first, then write. You're building a bridge before you try to drive across it. Now the final step is where Inara can be genuinely powerful if you use it ethically. Step 5 is write. This is writing, citing, and refining. The principle is that you should not write a literature review like a motivational essay. You write it like a legal argument, claim, evidence, interpretation, and limitations. The reason this matters is that strong writing in research is not about sounding advanced. It's about being verifiable. So here's how I write with Inara without turning it into a cheating tool. I write in my own words in a note. Then, when I make a claim, I immediately attach a citation using the built-in cite flow. That means I'm not writing first and scrambling for references later. I'm building citation discipline into the act of writing. Here's what that looks like as a writing prompt. Write a 400 to 600 word section titled Exercise Therapy in Knee Osteoarthritis, Effects on Pain and Function. Use simple academic English. Every major claim must have an in-text citation. Do not overstate causality if evidence is observational. Include a short paragraph on limitations of the evidence. end with a short synthesis sentence that connects this section to the next section of the outline. Then I do the most important part. I review each paragraph and ask myself one question. Can I prove this? If not, I either remove it, soften it, or add a source. That is what keeps the writing honest. The warning. If you skip this discipline, is that AI makes it dangerously easy to produce confident-sounding text that is not defensible. And in a PhD setting, that is not just risky, it wastes your time because you will have to rewrite it later. Mini recap for write. Write in your voice, cite as you write, verify what you keep. So that's the full 5-step workflow. Search, compare, analyze, draft, and write. And if you notice something, it's this. The tool is not the method. The tool supports the method. The method is what stops you from forgetting because it forces structure, retrieval, and evidence. Now I want to turn this into a real community case study. Comment your musculoskeletal topic and tell me which step you're stuck on right now. Search, compare, analyze, draft, or write. And if you want to follow the exact and narrow workflow I used in this video, check the link in the description. If you want a next step, go watch the next video on my channel where I show how to turn that outline into a clean, high-scoring literature review section without sounding robotic and without losing academic honesty.